Imagine waking up one day to the realization that every love story you ever been told is a lie. Not just the fairy tales, the sweeping romances, the soulmate myths, the cinematic crescendos of passion and permanence, but the very structure of modern love itself. The way we are taught to crave it, pursue it, and expect it to fulfill us is, in many ways, a carefully constructed illusion. And the most unsettling part, the failure of love isn't an accident. It's by design. Consider this paradox. We live in an era where love has never been more accessible. Dating apps, social media, endless possibilities at our fingertips. Yet loneliness has never been more pervasive. Relationships dissolve faster than they form. Marriages crumble under the weight of expectations they were never meant to bear. We are told love should be effortless, eternal, and all-consuming. Yet the reality is a cycle of longing, disillusionment, and quiet despair. Why? Because modern love isn't built to last. It's built to consume. Think about the last time you felt the sting of heartbreak. Was it just the loss of a person? Or was it something deeper? The collapse of an entire narrative you had constructed around them. The belief that this time, love would be different. That this person would finally be the missing piece, the one who could make you feel whole. But what if that very expectation, the idea that love is supposed to complete us, is the poison in the well? Philosophers have long warned us about this. Jean-Paul Sartre famously wrote, "Hell is other people, not because people are inherently cruel, but because we demand from them what they can never give, salvation." We enter relationships hoping to be seen, understood, saved from our own existential solitude. And when our partners inevitably fail at this impossible task, we blame love itself. Even worse, our culture fuels this cycle. Romantic love has been commodified, repackaged as both the ultimate fulfillment and a disposable consumer experience. Swipe left, swipe right. Love has been reduced to an algorithm, a transaction, a game of endless options, where commitment feels like settling. We are taught to crave the high of love, the dopamine rush of a new connection, but never the labor of it, the mess, the boredom, the daily choice to stay. And so we float from one half-lived love to the next, wondering why none of them feel like the stories we were promised. But here's the question that should haunt you. What if the reason love keeps failing isn't because you're doing it wrong, but because everything you've been taught about love is wrong? What if the fairy tales weren't just innocent fantasies, but dangerous blueprints that set us up for inevitable collapse? What if the modern world has engineered love to be unsustainable because a lonely, restless heart is easier to control than a satisfied one? This is not an accident. This is not a phase. This is the hidden architecture of modern romance, and it's time to tear it down. The hidden problem and its psychological and philosophical roots. You don't fall into love. You are pushed into it by forces you never agreed to, by myths you didn't realize you swallowed. The first and most insidious of these myths, the idea that love is destiny. From childhood, we are fed the narrative that somewhere out there a perfect person exists for us, a soulmate whose mere presence will erase our loneliness, validate our worth, and make life's suffering meaningful. Plato's Symposium gave us the poetic notion that humans were once split in two, doomed to wander in search of their missing halves. Romantic? Yes. Dangerous? Absolutely. Because this belief doesn't just shape how we love, it distorts it. Psychologist Erich Fromm saw this clearly. In The Art of Loving, he warned that modern love had become a transaction rather than an act of will. We treat partners like products, evaluating them for what they can do for us, make us happy, boost our status, soothe our insecurities, rather than loving them as full, flawed human beings. When they fail to meet our unconscious demands, we discard them, mistaking the failure of our expectations for the failure of love itself. But why do we keep repeating this cycle? Because love, in the modern age, has been hijacked by capitalism. Think about it. A culture built on consumption requires dissatisfaction. If people were truly content in their relationships, entire industries would collapse. Dating apps, self-help books, romantic comedies, divorce lawyers, even the beauty and fitness empires that thrive on our fear of being unlovable. The machinery of modern life depends on our perpetual hunger for something better. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the burnout society, where even love becomes a performance of endless optimization. We curate ourselves for maximum appeal, treating intimacy like a market where we must constantly prove our value. The result? A love that feels like a job interview that never ends. And then there's the neurological trap. Helen Fisher's research on love's 3 stages, lust, attraction, and attachment, reveals a cruel trick of evolution. The early stages of love flood our brains with dopamine and norepinephrine, creating an addiction-like high. But this chemical rush always fades. Biologically, it must. Otherwise, we'd never have the focus to build stable lives. Yet instead of recognizing this shift as natural, we mistake it for the death of love. We chase the high, confuse stability with stagnation, and bolt when the fireworks dim. Even our fear of loneliness is weaponized against us. The existentialist philosophers, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Sartre, understood that loneliness isn't just an absence of others, it's the terrifying awareness of our own separateness. But instead of facing this truth, we demand that love erase it. We burden our partners with an impossible task. Be my everything, or you are nothing. And when they inevitably fail, we conclude that love itself is broken. But the problem isn't love. The problem is that we've been taught to seek in love what only we can give ourselves. Carl Jung called this the projection of the anima or animus, the unconscious act of assigning our unmet needs, our unlived potentials, onto another person. We don't love them, we love the fantasy of what they could fix inside us. And when reality intrudes, when they turn out to be just as lost, just as human as we are, we feel betrayed. This is why modern love fails, not because we're incapable of deep connection, but because we've been conditioned to seek it in ways that guarantee disillusionment. The question now is, do you want to keep playing the game or break it? The unseen consequences. You don't see the cracks until the whole structure collapses. Modern love doesn't just fail in dramatic breakups or silent divorces. It fails in the quiet, unnoticed ways it reshapes us. The way we now approach intimacy isn't just flawed, it's corrosive, rewiring our expectations, our behaviors, and even our capacity for genuine connection. Point 1. The commodification of longing. Every swipe on a dating app reinforces the same subconscious belief: there is always someone better. This isn't just choice overload, it's psychological conditioning. Studies on the paradox of choice reveal that when faced with infinite options, humans become less satisfied with any decision. We don't just evaluate partners, we compare them, treating people like resumes in an endless interview process. The result? A perpetual state of emotional FOMO where commitment feels like settling, and love becomes a game of speculative investment. But the damage runs deeper. When we engage in relationships with one foot already out the door, we cripple our ability to practice love. The daily, unglamorous work of building trust, weathering conflict, and choosing someone again even when the dopamine fades. Point 2. The rise of breadcrumbing emotional labor. Modern romance has normalized emotional unavailability as a default setting. Mixed signals, vague intentions, and situationships aren't accidents. They're byproducts of a culture that prizes potential over presence. Psychologist Esther Perel observes that we now demand from partners what entire villages once provided: emotional support, intellectual stimulation, sexual fulfillment, financial stability, and existential meaning, all from one human being. But here's the catch: no one can sustain that. So, we engage in breadcrumbing, offering just enough affection to keep someone hooked, but never enough to build something real. The consequence? A generation starving for depth, but conditioned to accept scraps. Point 3. The death of negative capability in love. The poet John Keats coined the term negative capability, the ability to sit with uncertainty, mystery, and doubt without reaching for easy answers. Modern love obliterates this. We want instant clarity. Are we exclusive? Are we soulmates? Is this forever? If a relationship doesn't feel like a rom-com montage within weeks, we assume it's doomed. But real love isn't built in certainty, it's built in negotiation. The friction of mismatched desires, the uncomfort of vulnerability, the slow, unsexy work of learning another person's emotional language. By pathologizing doubt and discomfort, we've turned natural relationship challenges into red flags. Point 4. The self-love trap. The rise of "you must love yourself first" mantras, while well-intentioned, has birthed a dangerous inversion, the idea that love is something you earn through self-optimization. Social media peddles this relentlessly. Be whole alone, be your best self, as if love were some reward for personal perfection. But this is just another form of transactional thinking. It suggests that brokenness disqualifies you from connection, when in truth, love is not the absence of brokenness, it's the willingness to be broken together. By treating self-love as a prerequisite rather than a parallel journey, we've turned healing into yet another isolating performance. Point 6. The silent war on attachment. Neuroscience confirms what poets have always known: love rewires the brain. Secure attachment, the kind built on consistency and safety, triggers oxytocin, a hormone that reduces stress and fosters deep bonding. But modern dating operates on intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological mechanism that fuels addiction. Hot and cold behavior, unpredictable communication, the thrill of the chase. These keep us hooked not because they're healthy, but because they mirror the dysfunction our brains mistake for passion. The fallout? We've begun to equate anxiety with love. The racing heart, the obsessive thoughts, the constant need for reassurance. We've been taught to call this chemistry, when in reality, it's just trauma masquerading as desire. And the erosion of shared meaning. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, argued that humans cannot thrive without a sense of purpose. Yet, modern love is increasingly untethered from any larger narrative. Marriage is no longer an economic or spiritual institution for many. It's a purely emotional contract, one that dissolves the moment feelings fade. But here's the problem. Feelings always fade. Without shared values, shared struggles, or shared missions, relationships become little more than mutual therapy sessions, exhausting and unsustainable. The invisible toll. These consequences aren't just personal, they're societal. Rising loneliness epidemics, plummeting birth rates, the normalization of romantic nihilism, all symptoms of a world that has turned love into a consumable product rather than a sacred practice. But the most devastating effect, we've started to internalize the dysfunction. We blame ourselves when relationships fail, not realizing the game was rigged from the start. We mistake our hunger for real connection as neediness, our desire for depth as clinginess, our capacity to love as a weakness. And so we adapt. We lower our expectations. We settle for less. We tell ourselves love isn't real, or that we're not built for it. But what if the truth is worse and more liberating? What if love isn't the problem? What if we've just been speaking the wrong language?
The rebellion. How to break free. The first step in dismantling a trap is realizing you're inside one. Modern love doesn't have to be this way. The despair, the cyclical heartbreak, the quiet resignation, these aren't inevitabilities. They're symptoms of a script we've been handed without our consent. But scripts can be rewritten. 1. Reject the myth of completion. No person, no matter how extraordinary, can fill the void within you. That isn't their job. The ancient Greeks had 2 words for love: eros, passionate, romantic love, and agape, unconditional, selfless love. Modern culture obsesses over eros while starving us of agape. We demand that romance be both wildfire and safety net, punishing our partners when they cannot be both. Rebellion begins here. Stop seeking completion and start practicing collaboration. Love isn't about finding your missing half. It's about 2 whole people choosing to build something new together. 2. Abandon the cult of effortlessness. Social media sells love as a perpetual highlight reel. Sunset kisses, flawless vacations, choreographed proposals. Real love looks nothing like this. Psychologist John Gottman's research reveals that lasting relationships aren't built on grand gestures, but on micro moments of connection. The daily "how was your day?", the silent solidarity during stress, the willingness to repair after conflict. Rebellion looks like embracing the mundane. Falling in love is easy. Staying in love is an act of relentless, unglamorous courage. 3. Rewrite the rules of attraction. Society tells us chemistry should be instant, overwhelming, undeniable. But neuroscience shows that attraction can deepen over time as emotional intimacy grows. The most dangerous lie we've been sold is that spark is the ultimate litmus test. Many toxic relationships begin with fireworks. Many healthy ones start as slow burns. Rebellion means choosing curiosity over chemistry. Prioritizing, do I respect this person, over, do they make my heart race? 4. Practice anti-dating. Dating apps engineered disposability. So break the algorithm. Date like an anthropologist. Stop evaluating and start observing. Ask, what is this person's relationship with life? Instead of, are they good enough for me? Impose a no ghosting rule. If you've shared time, energy, or intimacy, owe them 5 minutes of closure. Introduce friction. Delete apps for a month. Approach someone in person. Let attraction grow instead of demanding it up front. Rebellion is treating people like humans, not options. 5. Reclaim solitude. Our terror of being alone keeps us trapped in half-hearted connections. But solitude isn't emptiness. It's the space where you remember who you are outside of others' desires. Philosopher Pascal warned, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Rebellion requires going on solo dates, traveling alone, sitting with your own thoughts until their volume drowns out the world's noise. 6. Redefine commitment. Commitment isn't a cage, it's a craft. The modern world glorifies freedom, but ignores that true freedom requires a framework. Jazz musicians improvise beautifully because they agree on a key and tempo first. Love is no different. Rebellion sounds like, I choose you today. Tomorrow, I'll choose you again. We don't have to be perfect, we have to be present. Love isn't a feeling, it's a policy. 7. Cultivate negative space in love. In art, negative space, the empty areas around a subject, give form to the whole. Relationships need this too. Time apart to miss each other. Silence to appreciate speech. Conflict to deepen understanding. Rebellion is seeing gaps not as threats, but as breathing room. 8. Reject the love industrial complex. Capitalism thrives on your insecurity. Every ad, app, and rom-com profits by convincing you that you're incomplete without a partner, that love should always feel euphoric, that your relationship is a reflection of your worth. Rebellion means opting out. Buying second-hand rings, writing letters instead of texting. Loving quietly, offline, in ways that can't be monetized. The radical realization. Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning love, it means upgrading it. From something you fall into to something you build. From something that happens to you to something you participate in. This isn't idealism. It's reclamation. The tragedy of modern love isn't that it's impossible. It's that we've been pursuing a hollow replica while the real thing waits, ignored in the shadows. But the real thing demands more. More patience, more bravery, more willingness to look foolish. Are you ready? Because the deepest rebellion isn't against love, it's for it.
The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Here is the secret no one wants you to know.
Love does not exist to make you happy. Not in the way you've been taught. Not as a constant euphoria, not as an antidote to loneliness, not as a cosmic validation of your worth. The modern world has sold you love as a product, something that exists to serve you, fulfill you, complete you. But love at its deepest level is not a transaction, it is a vocation. 1. The paradox of love's purpose. Every spiritual tradition, from Buddhism to Christianity to Sufism, whispers the same unsettling truth. Love is not about getting, but about surrendering. The poet Rumi wrote, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." This is the first great disillusionment and the first great liberation. Love does not exist to erase your suffering. It exists to transform it. The moments when love feels hardest, when the spark dims, when resentment builds, when you stare at your partner and feel nothing, are not signs that love has failed. They are invitations to love differently. 2. The death of the soulmate myth. The idea of a soulmate is not romantic, it is tyrannical. It places an impossible burden on another human being to be perfect for you, to understand you without words, to fulfill needs you yourself have not examined. Philosopher Elaine de Botton argues that we should replace the concept of soulmate with the art of tolerating difference. True compatibility is not about finding someone who fits perfectly into your prefabricated fantasy, but about negotiating reality together. The ultimate truth? There is no one. There are only ones you choose again and again through the daily act of understanding. 3. Love as a mirror. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your partner will trigger you. They will reflect back to you your insecurities, your childhood wounds, your unhealed traumas. This is not a flaw in love, it is its function. Modernity tells you to walk away when love gets hard, to trust the universe and wait for something easier. But the universe is not a vending machine for comfortable relationships. The harder truth, and the more empowering one, is that love is a path of initiation. It burns away your illusions, forces you to grow, demands that you confront the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. 4. The antidote to loneliness is not love, it's communion. Loneliness is not cured by finding the right person. It is cured by learning to see others, really see them in their full, flawed humanity. The French philosopher Simone Weil wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." Most of us enter relationships not to give attention, but to receive it. We perform, we curate, we demand validation. But the deepest connections are born when we put down the script and simply witness each other. When we stop asking, "Do they love me?" and start asking, "Do they feel loved by me?" 5. The choice beyond feelings. Modern love is built on the tyranny of feelings. If it feels good, it's right. If it feels bad, it's wrong. But Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, taught that meaning, not happiness, is the highest human pursuit. Love is no different. The love that lasts is not the one that always feels good, but the one that means something. This is the ultimate rebellion, to love on purpose. To choose someone not because they make your heart race, though that may come and go, but because their existence has become woven into your sense of meaning. The ultimate realization. You will never find a love that completes you, but you can build a love that roots you. Not a love that shields you from storms, but one that teaches you to stand in the rain together. Not a love that answers all your questions, but one that makes the questions worth living. The ancient Greeks had a word for this, kairos, the right, critical, or opportune moment. Not chronological time, but sacred time. Love is not about finding the right person in the timeline of your life. It's about creating the right moment over and over within the shared time you have. The last words. So here is the truth, stripped of all illusions. Love will break your heart. Not just once, but many times. It will ask you to forgive the unforgivable, to stay when every cell in your body screams to leave, to love even when love feels like an act of absurdity. But this is not love's failure, it is its promise. Because love is not a destination, it is a practice, a stubborn, irrational, glorious refusal to let the world's brokenness have the final word. You will stumble, you will doubt, you will want to run. But if you stay, if you choose to love consciously, courageously, without guarantee, you will discover something more valuable than happiness. A love that is not borrowed, but built. Not found, but forged. Not a fantasy, but a fact of your life. Now, what will you do with this knowing?